Welcome to Wendy's Wisdom for Living in the Light. Improve your life starting today by understanding your inner gifts and how spirit influences your life. So let's get started. By listening to this episode, you agree to the terms found at wendyswisdom.ca/terms. Hi there, I'm Wendy Kay and welcome to today's show. If you enjoy the show, please like it and follow it, and consider becoming a patron to help me to provide you with more shows. So, have you been following the solar flares over the last week or two? Wow, what's happening is what we've been waiting for oh so patiently. Okay, not so patiently, but it does appear that the solar storm we've been waiting for has finally arrived. What solar storm? Well, I'm glad you asked. Now, back in September 2021, Coco asked her spirit guides what event was going to happen before the third flare. She was told that there would be a significant solar storm. During this storm, there was supposed to be multiple C flares and multiple M flares. And there may even be multiple X flares, but we're not really too sure about that. We do know that the event of the solar storm happening prior to the third flare is happening right now in physical. That was confirmed by my guides when I asked them about it, and it was confirmed by Coco's guides as well. It's an important event because it means the third flare is very close. Now, if you're a bit confused with all this talk about the third flare, let me share a little bit more on this topic. You see, we're supposed to have a very large solar flare take place. That solar flare has a very important function. It sets the foundation for completion. It almost finishes the light Earth and almost finishes the tunnel connection from the light Earth to our Earth, which Spirit calls the dark Earth. If you don't know what I mean by the light Earth, I suggest that you head over to my business website, which is oralin.com, ORALIN.com, and go into the player on the home page. Just scroll down a bit in the list and you'll find the show, Do You Know About the Light Earth? Give that a listen. Knowing about the light Earth is very important to your path if you're developing your abilities, communicating with spirit, or walking a path of light. Basically, it's the next level of learning once you finish all of the learning that you have to do on the planet Earth. For the purpose of this show, just understand that there are two planets of significance involved in the third solar flare: the dark Earth, that's our Earth, and the light Earth. The dark Earth is the planet we are living on right now. You can touch it, feel it, stamp your foot on it. That's our Earth. It is called the dark Earth because of the amount of negativity on this planet right now, which has made the spiritual energy really heavy and very dark. The other planet is the light Earth, or the Golden Kingdom as it's known in spirit. It's a planet of energy, and it is where souls go to learn once they have ascended. If you haven't ascended, but you are working on the process, you come to the dark Earth to finish off any negative karma. When all of your negative karma is resolved and you've reached the level of knowledge needed, you can then continue learning on the light Earth. That's it in a nutshell. Of course, it's much more complicated than that, but hey, that's a 30-second summary. There'll be a lot more information coming through on the light Earth and the dark Earth with each passing day, so I've been told. So, going back to Coco's message. There were supposed to be 4 significant flares taking place. There were many more flares that have happened over the years, but I'm just talking about the ones that have happened since I was given information about the light Earth. The light Earth started being built January 11th, 1992, and although I certainly felt the effects of it, I really didn't understand what was happening. It was only in the last couple of years that my spirit teachers started sharing information about the light earth. So the four flares come into play from the point I started researching and learning more about the light earth. The first two flares have already happened. We've been waiting for the third flare for a while. In fact, I believe we've been waiting since the end of last year. Could be as early as August 2021. Could be September. I'm not quite sure. In the time between the second and the third flare, there have been many other flares that have been part of the preparation for the third flare. Many things have happened during that time. Our spirit guides continued to work on our energy to get us ready for being connected to the light earth. A tunnel that connects the light earth and the dark earth was built, and the atmosphere on the light earth was being prepared to make it habitable for souls. Actually, a few weeks ago, I was told that they were putting buildings on the light earth at that time. So it is really getting to the point where souls are going to be able to live there. Right now, the energy from the light earth is pushing through the tunnel. And once it gets to the dark earth and breaks through, the two planets are going to be connected. That breakthrough of the energy apparently happens during the fourth flare. So when we have the fourth flare, the dark earth is fully connected to the light earth. That is the main event. The tunnel and the flow of energy coming from the light earth to the dark earth will be completed. The connection of a soul to the light earth will also be completed. The light earth then becomes habitable. Those who are able to visit the light earth will then be able to do so. Not every soul is connected to the light earth, and not every soul will be able to visit the light earth. You have to earn your connection, and that's what all souls are doing when they're born on this planet. They're learning lessons, creating karma, resolving karma, raising their spiritual vibration, gaining knowledge, and growing as a soul. So as a soul, you're hoping to gain all of the knowledge that you need so that you can ascend to the light earth to continue learning and to continue your progression as a soul. It's a really good idea to keep your eyes on the solar flares to watch for that third flare. Now, I've talked a lot about the solar flares, but if you don't know really what I'm talking about when I'm talking about those flares, there are a couple of really great websites to visit. The first is spaceweatherlive.com, and that is all one word, spaceweatherlive.com, where you can get up-to-the-minute changes on the solar flares. You can also go to spaceweather.com. That site gives you more of an explanation about what's happening. So spaceweatherlive.com is really more about the data. When a solar flare happens, how large it is, whether the solar flare generated a coronal mass ejection or CME, and other space data. Then, if you want to understand what's happening on a deeper level, go to spaceweather.com. Those are the two sites that I visit, and I find that they seem to be giving me an easy way for me to understand what's going on. I am certainly not proficient in all of this space stuff, so those were the sites that I went to that seemed to allow me to figure out what they were talking about. Now, why bother to follow the solar flares at this time, besides to figure out when the third solar flare happens? Well, if you follow what's happening with the solar flares for a while, you might start to see a pattern emerging. Many people notice that they feel worse when a large flare takes place. Why does this happen? If you surf the net, you'll probably notice that many groups or people think that the sun is changing our energy. It isn't. Well, it is and it isn't. Your spirit guides and teachers are using the energy generated by the sun to make changes to your energy. By the way, they can also collect energy from those solar flares and store it so that they can use that energy to make changes even when a flare is not happening. So keep that in mind. Some of the solar flares give off what's called a CME, or coronal mass ejection. You can Google CME to read more about it. A good explanation of it is found at earthsky.org/space/what R coronal mass ejections /. They describe a CME as the sun burping, where enormous bubbles of superheated gas called plasma are ejected from the sun. If a CME happens while it's facing Earth, it can generate geomagnetic storms. That's actually why many follow solar flares in the first place, because when there are geomagnetic storms, you get very pretty northern lights or the aurora borealis. However, what's taking place right now with those burps or CMEs is much more significant. That energy is being used by spirit to change our energy and to do a lot of other things. It's not unusual for you to feel those changes happening or to react to the energy. It doesn't matter whether the CME is directed at Earth or not, but it does tend to affect us more if it is Earth directed. Those changes generally don't feel very good. They create inflammation in the body and all kinds of other issues. If you want to learn more about what you can experience from the work that's being done or how it's affecting your body, I suggest that you head back over to Oralin.com. You go to the player on the homepage, scroll down, and find the 3 shows: Solar Flares and Healing, Are They Affecting You? How Solar Flares Affect Empaths, Part 1, and How Solar Flares Affect Empaths, Part 2. And give them a listen. They're not that far down in the list, and I think the 3 of those shows are really close together as well. Now, before we end the show, there's one other thing I want to mention, and I have mentioned it before, and it's something that you can do to help you go through this process. Back in January, I had asked my guides what I should do to feel better. I just wanted one thing that would be easy to do, and I thought they would say, stop eating sugar or eat properly. Instead, they said, foam roll daily. I was shocked. It wasn't something that I expected. I didn't even ask them why. I just started to do it. Every day I take a few minutes to use the foam roller on my back, hips, and arms. I use another massager that I have for my neck. It clears a lot of blockages and relieves the pain quite a bit. You see, if you're connected or being connected to the light earth, you're going to have a lot of energy being pushed through you. If you have energy blockages or physical blockages in your body, that energy is going to try and clear them out, or rather it tries to slam its way through them. So it can be painful. If it can't clear them, it's going to take another route, but it first tries to clear them. So it can be painful. Massaging the muscles or using a foam roller can help the energy to move through your body more smoothly. I really recommend trying it if you can, and it should make the process a lot easier, especially if you are feeling pain from the process. I was talking to a client the other day who was in pain, and I suggested that she use the foam roller, and she said that it was too painful. And I asked her if she used it on the floor, and she said that she did. I suggested using it against the wall. That way you can adjust the pressure. That's what I do. There's no way I would have been able to use the foam roller on the floor when I first started using it. I could barely use it against the wall because the muscles were so tight and blocked. However, as I release the blockages, I'm able to apply much more pressure. So don't be afraid to use a foam roller against a wall with very little pressure. If you do it daily, you're going to see changes. I've even just held the small one that I have. It's only about a foot long, and I'll hold it and roll it over my biceps. And I find that painful. But that's what you get when you sit at a computer all day and you're typing, or you're holding your phone in your hand for very long periods of time. It uses your muscles, and eventually those muscles get really tight. And if we don't stretch them back out, we end up in pain. So try using the foam roller daily, and you might notice a positive change in how you feel. Of course, It may not help with the other symptoms like being overly tired or not being able to sleep or the food cravings or the emotional stuff, but it does help with some things and it is certainly well worth giving a try. Understand that this process has been going on for quite some time. You see, they just couldn't create the light earth and just hook us up to it using a tunnel. It would be extremely painful for us. It needed to be built over time so that we could adjust to the energy very slowly. It's important to understand that each soul's connection is going to be unique. It really depends on you as a soul, what level you're at, and what your spiritual vibration is at this time. If you're feeling the solar flares a lot, your spirit guides or healers or teachers are probably still doing work on you. If you're not feeling them at all, it's very possible that all the work that needs to be done prior to those important flares has already been completed. Now, we don't know when the third flare is going to happen. We don't know when the fourth flare is going to happen. We just know that it's not far off. We have some guesses, but they are guesses. I'm sure I'm going to do a show on it when it happens, but until that time, it might be a good idea for you to journal how you feel and monitor the flares. When you start to feel more crappy than usual, jot it down or mark it down on a calendar. It's possible that you're going to see a pattern and you might be able to connect how you feel with the solar flares that are taking place. Now, I know today's show was a bit technical with all the talk about the solar flares, but it's really not that complicated. I guess what you really have to get out of this show today is that a very significant event is taking place right now, and that is the solar storm. We were told about this storm last year. It was supposed to take place just prior to the third flare happening. And that third flare sets up the foundation for the fourth flare, and the fourth flare is completion. So we now know that we are very close to the third flare taking place and really close to the fourth flare then taking place. I also shared with you today an easy way for you to hopefully reduce any pain you might be feeling if you are experiencing discomfort with this process. Perfectly normal to experience aches and pains, headaches, sinus pain, digestive troubles, being tired, being emotional. Again, go back and listen to those shows that I suggested. It's all normal stuff to be feeling, but it is unpleasant, of course. So once these flares take place and once completion happens, that should all come to an end. So it's really exciting for all that to be finished and the new stuff to start happening. And of course, once the new stuff starts happening, there should be a lot of new information coming through. Now, if you want to get notified of when I post a new podcast, please go to oralin.com, that's ORALIN.com, and sign up on the mail list. You'll be sent an email each time there is a new show that has been posted, and you'll also get other updates to the site. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Wendy Kay. Remember to live in the light and to breathe in divine love.